Imagine you just gave birth. No hospital, no doctor, no blanket warmed by a radiator. Just you, the baby, and whatever is within arm's reach in the next 60 seconds. The baby isn't crying yet. That's the first problem. A newborn who doesn't cry right away might not be breathing properly, and you have maybe a minute before that becomes permanent. Then there's the cold. A newborn can't regulate its own body temperature, not even close. Drop the air a few degrees and a baby that was fine an hour ago can be in real trouble within 20 minutes. Then there's the food problem. There's no formula. There's no butter waiting in a fridge. There is exactly one working feeding system on the entire planet right now, and it's attached to your own body. And if it doesn't start working in the first day or two, the baby has no backup plan at all. Today, when a baby is born, there's a room full of machines built to catch every one of those failures. An incubator for the cold, a feeding tube for the milk, a monitor watching every breath, a team of trained people standing by for exactly this hour. For most of human history, none of that existed. And yet somehow we're here, billions of us, which means somebody over and over for hundreds of thousands of years got this right without any of it. So how? The first answer is something you'd never think to call technology: breastfeeding. Not just as food, as the actual life support system. Researchers analyzing bone chemistry from infants who lived around 10,000 years ago found that breastfeeding typically continued for 1 to 3 years, averaging just under 3. And modern data tells you why that mattered so much. Infants who weren't exclusively breastfed were roughly 8 times more likely to die in their first year. 8 times. That's not a lifestyle preference. Early milk colostrum is loaded with antibodies a newborn's own immune system hasn't learned to make yet. Without it, a baby isn't just hungry, it's defenseless. And breastfeeding did something else nobody was engineering on purpose. Feeding a baby around the clock suppresses ovulation. Researchers estimate the average gap between births in hunter-gatherer populations at around 39 months. Well over 3 years between siblings. That's not a coincidence. And it's not really a choice either. It's a built-in safety limit, keeping a mother from having to keep 2 impossibly fragile infants alive at once. The second problem, the cold, wasn't solved by fire alone. It was solved by carrying. In 2022, researchers examining a 10,000-year-old infant burial in Italy, a baby who lived only 40 to 50 days, buried with more than 60 shell beads, noticed something odd about the wear pattern on some of those beads. It didn't match a baby moving on its own. It matched something else, a sling. A carrier, reused and decorated. Built to hold an infant against an adult's body heat for hours at a time, hands mostly free. That's not a blanket somebody grabbed in a panic. That's wearable thermoregulation, engineered and refined. Invented before writing, before farming, before the wheel. The third problem is where the story gets genuinely surprising. For decades, archaeologists looked at how many infant skeletons kept turning up at ancient sites and assumed it meant a horrifying, constant death rate. But a 2021 study out of the Australian National University found something that complicates that picture. Fertility, not mortality, turned out to be the bigger factor behind how many infant graves show up in the record. More babies being born looks, underground, almost identical to more babies dying, unless you account for the birth rate first. That doesn't mean ancient infant death wasn't real. It often was, and brutally so. It means the story isn't as simple as life was cheap back then. And you can see exactly how not cheap it was. At a site called Kremswachtberg in Austria, archaeologists uncovered the remains of newborn twins buried together along with a third infant, roughly 3 months old, in a grave nearby. This is one of the only burials of its kind ever found from the entire Upper Paleolithic. Someone, more than 27,000 years ago, dug those graves by hand, in a world where digging anything permanent into frozen ground took real, exhausting effort. Someone decided these tiny, barely lived lives were worth marking. Grief, it turns out, is not a modern invention. But here's the part that gets left out of almost every version of this story. It was never just the mother. Anthropologist Kristen Hawkes spent years studying the Hadza, hunter-gatherers in Tanzania, and noticed something the standard picture of prehistory completely missed. The older women, grandmothers done having their own children, were out foraging constantly and handing almost everything they gathered straight to their grandchildren. Across multiple hunter-gatherer societies studied since, the presence of an active grandmother measurably improves a grandchild's chances of survival and shortens the gap between the mother's pregnancies even further because someone else is covering the caloric cost of the kids already here. Fathers, aunts, older siblings, even unrelated members of the group filled in the same role. Researchers call it alloparenting, other parenting, and it might be one of the reasons humans, alone among the great apes, live decades past the point where we can still have children ourselves. The whole point of a grandmother's extra 30 years might be exactly this. So here's what was actually in that room with no doctor, no incubator, no monitor. A body that already knew how to manufacture the exact food a newborn's immune system needed, on schedule for years if necessary. A sling, invented and refined over generations, doing the job an incubator does today. A group of people, not just one exhausted parent, spacing births and pooling calories to protect the ones already born. And when it didn't work, and sometimes it didn't, people who buried their children like they mattered because they did. None of that was luck. It was accumulated knowledge, tested against the worst possible stakes, and passed down, exhausted new parent to exhausted new parent, for 250,000 years. You inherited every part of it without ever being told its name. The reason you're capable of reading this sentence right now is that somewhere along an unbroken line of newborns stretching back into the deep past, every single one of them made it. Because someone with nothing but a sling, a body that knew what to do, and a grandmother willing to go out and find dinner got it right.